Oh man, I bet there's. I mean, at the end of the day, as I'm sure you've heard this word plenty of times and know it inside and out. But like hegemonic power or like any privilege coming from being in any sort of with identifying with the hegemony, which like of course in like the greater broader sense, um the hegemonic culture of at least the US is being straight, white, and male. But then if even we break that down, if you have any part of that, you're like gonna be benefiting from that. So us having the straight and the male part, which like, good on you, Darian, for taking that step, because you're right. You don't have to do that. And I do think the there's not a way to approach it. This is something that has to be approached in house. It's like it's got to be us. It's got to be this, right? It's got to be black men talking to other black men about this, because like otherwise you don't have to. Like you have a lot of other things to do in your day, and the thing is like I think unfortunately once the powers that be start solidifying gender constructs, it's very hard for everyday people to change it at a fundamental level because it's used as a way to organize society, and you're in a society. So you're kind of just like trying not to get in too much trouble, going about your day, and like if that means I have to wear pants and I can't wear a skirt, oh well, but I have bills to pay. I have shit to do. I can't be thinking about all these complex questions about like my representation. But or not but so I think what this new interest is, honestly, in trans rights, in destroying transphobia, is really possibly people finally getting time, not just because of like being in a Panasonic, but like I think like in general, people finally starting to break down, why do I have to live like this again? Like, why do I do this? Why do I act the way that or why can't I act certain ways? For black men, I think that's usually when this ends up happening. It's usually, especially as a black boy, when you just find out you can't do something that you naturally want to do, which, I read in Bell Hooks the Will to Change, when she was describing that, um she was describing a memory with her brother, basically the first time they figured out that they were two different genders and therefore had to leave two different lives. And she says, I was more violent and aggressive than my brother, which I found out was bad, and my brother was more kind-hearted and gentle, which we found out was really bad. And those moments right there make me think like, wow, I wish I could go back to the moment I figured out, or the moment I was told, because you don't figure it out. You honestly don't figure it out until you're doing your master's in sociology. But when I figured out that parts of the things that I wanted to do that weren't endangering anybody, that weren't like illegal or violent, just I wasn't supposed to do, because you just don't do that, because like you have a dick. You can't do that anymore. And I wonder what that does to kids, because that must be very confused. There's no logic that goes with it. So you really learn from process of elimination, which I guess ends up. Sorry, I'm getting away from transphobia, but like it goes hand in hand with it, because I think that means repression starts early. Like you not even be able, and this is something that even when I talk with my both my white colleagues, and then my colleagues that don't come from like the African diaspora, just in other cultures that maybe not necessarily have like the best policy versus freedom of sexuality, but like just don't kind of like hamper down on being trans or gay as much. We'll say that, or on gender norms, not being trans or gay, they are allowed a lot of gray area. There are things that are just neutral things that you can do because they're just aesthetic. I think a lot about the current sort of like stereotype, or what do they call those? Not a prototype. What do you call those things in stories? Archetypes. Yeah. Like the current, yeah, thank you. The current K-pop archetype is a very soft looking man. And like, but they're not looked at as feminine, just because like they're just allowed to do that. And when you think about it like that, like they would consider themselves, like the people in BTS, the people in, I'm now going to name off 7 other bands you don't know, but like Got7, Monster X, all these people, like they aren't looked at in their community as non-masculine men. They're just men that like have really clear skin, can dance, can sing. And by the way, is that not also something that used to be the case for us? Like, were the Temptations not, were the Jackson 5 not super young, clear skin, singing, dancing? People don't dance no more. Like, you think, you think the baby really about to start like dancing like Chris Brown? You know, that's gonna be weird. But it's weird because I was told it's weird. And I think as soon as my whole thing about, especially with transphobia, I feel I say this because I think specifically for black males, the gateway into unlearning a lot of this stuff is understanding, because this is what took me some time to understand. I probably like really truly understood this by the time I was in like my sophomore or junior year of university, was that all being trans is just saying like I'm gonna just do what I want. Like it's just I'm I'm gonna present the way that I want to do. I'm gonna like the things that I want to do. And for all the talk that we have of like being free and having agency and being in control, if you're not in control of like what you can wear, like what's being a man, you know? And once I really deeped that, I was just like, one, I was like, none of this matters. One, I was like, oh, I had no idea. I honestly believe, how old were you? How old were you when you like fully got the fact that sex and gender were different things?
I would say 19, and that was because I took a women's studies course. That was the first moment I found out that the statement "gender is fluid" shook me to my core. Not because I was like afraid or like I hated it. I was just like, wait, what? And I'll never forget, we had to do an assignment where we went to a toy store. And now with this newfound feminist lens, and it was specifically, I'm saying specifically feminist lens because it was a women's studies course and we learned about feminist theory and whatnot. And with that came a more refined lens on what gender, sex, sexuality, sexual orientation, all that good stuff. Go to a Toys R Us, look at what you see, and write about it. And I was like, you want me to go to a toy store for what? Yo, I went to that toy store. I went to Toys R Us, RIP, and I was like, yo, I never paid attention to this. You got the blue owl with the boys, with the stuff for boys. Got the pink owl with the stuff for girls, and then you got the green owl for stuff that's gender neutral. The green owl, bruh. The green owl has stuff like household items. You got kitchenware. You got lawn care stuff, and it's green because it's seemingly gender neutral. But in the pink aisle, you got baby dolls that's like 6'5", and then you got the action figures and the toys with the muscles and the swords and the guns and the cars in the blue aisle. Had never thought about what that meant when I was younger. I'll go to the toy store, I'm going straight to the blue aisle. You wanna know why? Because I'm socialized to be a young boy who likes violence, aggression, and roughhousing.
And I think it's also super important. Like, wow, that's such a good point that you just made, because it also highlights the fact that all of this gender performance stuff is perpetuated by money. It's perpetuated by profit, and like I don't think people internalize that enough. Like, yeah, you could say like, oh yeah, I understand they exploit it to get us to buy things. No, they like create the norms in order to get us to buy things. Like, had we been left to our own devices, we would of course have some norms, but like really think about it. Like even the blue and the pink thing is like, would you really, if nobody told you that blue and pink were like gendered colors, would you really end up making that distinction yourself? Like the
Those colors were also switched in the early, I want to say
yeah,
the
early
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 19th
19th
century
century. And also I'll
or early
send you a
20th
video
century,
later.
something like
There's
that. Yeah.
actually an amazing video about just how much they kept flip flopping. And even during that time, everybody likes to point out, they're like, oh yeah, it used to be pink for boys and blue for girls. That even then it wasn't consistent. They also were like, maybe yellow could be for boys instead. Like they were just shouting out colors, and they were selling things. Like they weren't sociologists saying like, yeah, so we figured out that all girls are just born pink. You know, we cut them open, we saw, and then like we cut open the boy and he was blue. You know, what are you gonna do? No, they were just like, we gotta pick two colors, and we're gonna sell the shit out of those colors. Which again, and this is where it gets so wow, that's a good conversation. This is when this is what it takes, in my opinion. This is the way I think about the world. If you can understand the forces of why you're making decisions, those forces can even keep making the same decisions. But now you have the agency to be like, I know why this decision was being made and I can choose it. The issue is for a lot of us, like, there's a lot of things that were shown that are fed to us that, you know, from when you're a kid, your mom took you and you know, even if you wanted to stop in the pink aisle, she would be like, why are you in the pink aisle? And then push you to the blue aisle. So then you're just a kid. You're like, well, these are all the toys that all my friends are playing with. They're the toys that my mom got me for Christmas. Of course I'm gonna just be in this blue aisle where all, for some reason, all the guns, the violence, the roughhousing, all of just like the aggressive things are. You might like to cook. Ain't no blue easy bake oven. Now I'm not even saying there needs to be one, but I'm saying like the idea, like the easy bake oven should be green. You know, I think like the girls get salons. Imagine if we don't even get play clippers.
Bro, you know how many black men's feet are suffering because they don't want to
Talk about a
go
kink.
and
Talk
get a
about a kink.
pedicure. Sure, you want to talk about crust? You want to talk about
Bro, I'm not gonna lie to
neglect?
you. The first time I got a pedicure, it was after I got my first big internship and I like had like big boy money. I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna get a pedicure.